this episode, we delve into the high-stakes world of emergency management with Anna McRay. As the Assistant Director of Emergency Management for New Hanover County, Anna shoulders the responsibility of safeguarding lives and property during crises. Located in North Carolina, New Hanover's coastal territory presents many challenges, experiencing hurricanes and floods over the years and over 1,600 tornadoes since 1950. We explore how her team coordinates efforts across cities, counties, and state agencies, and even with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, when needed. Anna's passion for protecting her community shines through. She discusses the rewards and hurdles of emergency management, emphasizing the importance of collaboration. From disaster planning to rapid response, her leadership exemplifies the spirit of "it takes a village." Tune in as we unravel the intricate web of emergency preparedness, resilience, and community support. Whether you're a seasoned emergency management professional or simply curious about the behind-the-scenes work, this episode promises valuable insights. Give it a listen. I'm Kevin Peterson, and this is Weather Heroes. Today, we're joined by Anna McRay. Anna is currently the Assistant Director of Emergency Management for New Hanover County, North Carolina. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Anna, tell us a little bit what got you involved in the emergency management business.
So, long, winding story. I was a paramedic by trade in Virginia. So, I've been a certified paramedic for more than 35 years. Kind of through my job opportunities, I ended up in a spot where I could get my degree in, at the time, relatively new emergency services management. And it really kind of spoke to my paramedic brain in that, I was able to help, diagnose problems and help people work to fix them and kind of look towards recovery, kind of being the continuum of patient care. So it all kind of seemed to make sense, just not in a strictly medical sense. So, getting to work with all of the different public safety partners and all the community partners really, really played to what I like to do.
Oh, very good. And so I had said New Hanover County, North Carolina, and help me out here. Let's give everyone an idea of where New Hanover County is. It is in North Carolina. It encompasses a large part of the coast area. Think about Wrightsville Beach, Wilmington, those areas, as well as further inland. Certainly a good spot to, a busy spot to be involved with emergency management.
We are, if you're looking at a map, we're the little ice cream coned locality that's kind of hanging out down there. Wrightsville Beach is one of our 4 municipalities. So we have Carolina Beach, Curie Beach, Wrightsville Beach, and the city of Wilmington. So lots of good partners to work with.
Very good. Yes. Talk to me about the basic structure of your group, your EMA, versus what people often hear, which is FEMA, or the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And how does that work? And what type of partnerships do you develop within that arrangement?
I think one of the neat things about emergency management in general is it doesn't matter if you are a state or a Commonwealth or a local or a hospital-based emergency manager. It's all about building partnerships. So our local emergency management agency, we are responsible for really advocating for our citizens and for our municipal partners to the state. Everything that happens emergency management-wise, it comes through our office, and then we help connect the dots and connect the resources. We do get the opportunity to partner with FEMA, but we are not FEMA. In fact, we're the very first boots on the ground. And FEMA will tell you, very, very openly that all emergencies at the local level are locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. So, we are responsible for literally thinking of everything from armadillos to zombies and figuring out how to reduce risk, accept what risk will happen, and work on ways to mitigate it, to make it less impactful. Know that the risk is going to happen. So how can we help the community respond to the incident? And then being able to move through the response phase into recovery to kind of get us to whatever the new normal is. Our office here, we've got 9 staff, which is one of the larger offices here along the coast, but there's plenty for all of us to do. And everybody's very much, a mile wide and an inch deep on everybody's tasks. So, all of my team they're familiar with all the projects that everybody else is working on, but then they're subject matter experts. So they're an inch wide and a mile deep on their subject matter expertise. I have one fellow that's our logistician. He's the go-to guy. He knows where to find everything. Same with operations and planning. So I'm really lucky to get to work with good partners like that.
So y'all have a team, and let's say a tornado hits Wrightsville Beach. That's something that locally that you guys would handle.
We would support Wrightsville Beach in their response. So each municipality has their own emergency operations plan, which is the basic kind of like a playbook of how within that municipality or within that jurisdiction, how all of the different partners work together. So Wrightsville Beach has their own piece of an EOP that they work on, but then we're right there with them to support them, to get them whatever resources they need, be it hands to help do damage assessment or connections with state DOT for road or bridge repair, whatever they need, we get for them. And, it's really understanding what the 4 different municipalities need. They all have, different needs and different resources available to them day to day, but being able to leverage those across the board. So, I can have an understanding of what Wrightsville Beach might need for a given incident might be different than how Carolina Beach might need resources. So, there's lots of opportunity to work with what we have on a day-to-day basis, and then reach out to the other municipal partners, reach out to the state, let the state reach out on our behalf to other state agencies, to other states, across the nation, and then being able to let the state talk to FEMA, help us with whatever is remaining. And that's the big thing is, FEMA doesn't come in, in the immediate hours after an incident. It's really all incidents, all emergencies are local. So, they will come in and support us executing our plan, whatever that might be, with whatever resources they're able to bring to bear.
So really a hurricane response that hits the coast would be very similar, but just scaled up dramatically.
Could be. It depends. Because, if you've experienced a hurricane, you've experienced a hurricane. So, there's all sorts of different factors that go into that kind of response. They're generally similar. The impacts have a lot of different variables, which I find very interesting.
Talk to me about some of those.
Having those good partnerships with the community in general. So, making sure that people understand that emergency management as a whole, we don't plan for anyone. We're not in the business of planning for people. We're in the business of planning with people and with partners and helping make those connections. Sometimes the hardest thing can be, wrapping one's mind around all of the things that need to be done, when an emergency happens. But, if we put a lot of focus on preparedness, then that, helps to lessen the stress. And we kind of educate the public about what resources are available, non-governmental organizations, regular private sector partners, faith-based partners, all of those resources all come together, which is really neat. Not that you want to have a disaster or anything happen, but it's really neat to see how the community comes together and supports itself and, gets through whatever the crisis is.
That is very neat. And your role in all this is herding the cats. So describe your role.
Pretty much. It's pretty much herding the cats. So, we get the opportunity to, again, help everybody plan, discover what resources a partner might have, what their limitations might be, what they can actually do in a crisis, kind of knitting that together, best fit the scenario, so getting to, I think in the time that I've been here, I've learned a lot about maritime activity, for example, and who would have thought that a barge would hit a bridge in Baltimore and knock it down in mere seconds. But, being able to look at what happens in other jurisdictions, I can turn to my partners at the port or with our sheriff's office or, any of our maritime partners and say, hey, if this happened here, what would we do? And just being able to talk a lot of hypotheticals and build those relationships well before anything happens.
Yeah, those relationships are so key, no matter what business you're in when it comes to disasters. You talked a lot about planning and preparation and mitigation. Can you give me some examples of what that looks like?
There's nothing in emergency management, I don't think, that's proprietary. So, we take best practices, other lessons learned, and turn them into lessons applied. So we have a program, for example, it's called Ready NHC, for, Ready New Hanover County. And it's directly based off of the ready.gov program that FEMA provides. And it goes through, all 5 phases of emergency management, talks about, the seemingly simple things about, putting together a kit and, how to talk to your kids about, having tough conversations about, well, what happens if there's a tornado? What happens if we get separated? Being able to walk through that, I like helping the citizens find that they can do a lot more than they think they can. So, within that Ready NHC program, we do a community emergency resource team or CERT program. Some municipalities call them community emergency response teams, but we like to look at the holistic volunteer and use all of their knowledge and all of their life experience, not just kind of pigeonholing them into a response capacity, but, they also help us with all sorts of planning and recovery types of things. If we can get, the citizens to come participate in a CERT class with us, we teach them how to put together a disaster kit, how to actually use a fire extinguisher, and get our fire partners to come teach them how to, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. It sounds super simple, but, under stress, if you're not taught how to do it, it can be difficult. We teach really super basic first aid, encourage people to, do hands-only CPR, take classes about that, take classes about stop the bleed. It really is about empowering, helping people find the good that they can do. So all of that kind of just wraps right into the Ready NHC program.
As you're taking all these steps, tell me the steps you take, or I guess what your response would look like in a tornado versus a hurricane, or is it different between maybe a tornado and a flood or other perils?
There's a lot of similarities in how we prepare for and respond to different emergencies, but of course there's also differences. So, really the first thing that we focus on is understanding what our risk is. It could well be, it could be a flood might impact my neighborhood differently than it impacts the neighborhood, 2 or 3 neighborhoods up north from where I am. So being able to understand what those impacts might be, we start to, work with public, private sector partners, nonprofit groups, faith-based organizations, and we ask them, well, what's your plan? What's your continuity plan? How are you going to, before the incident ever even happens, how are you going to respond to this so that we can help make sure everybody is kind of, understanding that, the government isn't going to come rush in and help right away because, we have 198 square miles of other people we have to help too. So every little bit that every citizen can do on their own helps, kind of helps the greater good. Being able to really empower people is what it's all about. So that when we get, a tornado watch, people know that, a watch, means, I heard in a class, a watch means all the ingredients are there, right? So we kind of compare it to making cupcakes. There was a meteorologist in Houston that had this great meme that talked about a watch being like, you decide one day you want to make cupcakes. So you go to the store and you get all of the individual ingredients and you turn on the oven and you heat it up to 350 degrees and you mix it all together. That's your watch, right? You have all of those materials. Well, now when we move to a warning, when people hear a tornado warning, they know that that's an action item. When we compare that back to our cupcake, that means that I have this beautiful, yummy cupcake that's ready for me to eat, which means I need to do something, right? I need to frost it, I need to put sprinkles on it, and then I need to eat it, all action items. So just being able to teach people, even using something as silly sounding as that, best meme ever. I think that's taught more people the difference between watches and warnings. But, knowing the steps that they can do to address those. And then in a tornado scenario, once people come out of their safe area, that they're able to assess their damage. Sometimes it's literally walking around with your cell phone, videoing, the damage in your house. But that doesn't really do you a whole lot of good if you haven't looked before the incident happened, if you don't have documentation of what what you had to start with, if you haven't talked to your insurance carrier, to make sure that you have the right kind and the right amount of resources. Being able to kind of compare the two, direct people, to get in touch with their network to be able to recover. And then depending on how big an incident is, depending on what kind of incident it is, there could be additional help that might come from state emergency management. There may be a suite of relief or support programs that are available through FEMA. Doesn't happen every time, but if we meet certain thresholds, we can help get additional support. But if we do a lot of this planning beforehand in the preparedness phase on these blue sky days, it makes it so much easier to be able to bounce back and recover. And, no matter what side of the coin one is on climate change, whether or not it's happening, I don't think there's a single person that could argue that these storms that we're seeing, these tropical storms, tropical weather incidents, that they're not larger, they're not windier, they're not wetter. They absolutely are. And, that's just the risk that we have to take, living so close to the coast. Well, if we're going to live here at the coast, we have to have a plan in place about what to do and, where to get information about evacuation well before the incident happens. I shouldn't be talking with a community group about evacuation in 12 hours before we're going to do it. And this be the first time they hear it. It should be an ongoing conversation. But, all the basics are always the same, no matter what the incident is. And it comes from having a plan, making a kit, and staying informed.
So you see all these terrible pictures post-tornado, post-flood, post-hurricane. As y'all are in your headquarters and you're trying to manage these situations, how do you make the calls on what's a higher priority item to address first?
So again, before the incident even happens, we train together in this concept with the National Incident Management System, or NIMS. And part of NIMS is the Incident Command System, or ICS. And what ICS lets us do is develop objectives to address whatever's going on with our incident, focused on life safety, incident stabilization, and property preservation. So the very first thing of anything that we do is always based around life safety. So, once we've gotten people rescued, once we've gotten them into the emergency shelters, then we can move on to stabilizing the incident. If we need to do additional search and rescue, if we need to shore up buildings, or we need to clear roadways so that we can get fire trucks down the road, we work on that. And then property preservation, making sure that we're doing the right things to take care of the environment, that we're properly disposing of debris, that we're working with partners that can come in and help, get a tree off of a roof or help a neighborhood get food, things like that. I think one of the biggest things that we can focus on is training and exercising together, not just the public safety partners, but with the citizens, with the private sector partners. Bring those non-governmental entities to the table and let's all sit and talk through, well, what's going to happen, or what do we think will happen? Because, Murphy was an optimist. So, we try to be flexible in our planning because anything could change. But I think if people have a good understanding of what they are actually capable of, it makes it so much easier to get to the recovery phase.
Do you have any disasters that you worked through or worked on that come to mind? Maybe some of those are proof of concepts of some of the planning that y'all did and how it worked?
Oh, gosh, so many. Some of them good, some of them bad. Some of them difficult for the community, some of them difficult in the career, in the job. There are lots of instances where, we plan for X, but Y actually ends up happening. And I can pull actions from plan A that was never intended to do this and apply it. We saw that with COVID, where, back in I guess it was the late 80s, we're working on, H1N1 plans, extensive flu plans, and making sure that people have resources and where are we going to get masks and gloves. When COVID started, we were having those same conversations again. We were fortunate in that we were able to kind of reach back and pull out those plans that we've been practicing in different ways. And, we got to the point where, we're talking about doing testing or we're doing vaccinations where, do we have to develop a whole new plan to deal with, populations coming for testing? Well, not necessarily, because we have a point of distribution plan that we do every single solitary time we have a hurricane, because we're giving out water and we're giving out ice and we're giving out tarps. So it's just a different commodity that we're giving out. And just having those plans in place just helps reduce somewhat a stressful situation, because you don't have to go back and start all over again. There's plenty of instances where I've seen other community partners or other localities have to work through incidents while they're in the middle of the incident. We had the opportunity to support a locality to our north when I was still in Virginia that had a line of duty death in the middle of Tropical Storm Michael. The firefighter that died was very well known in Central Virginia. He was a very well respected instructor, and we were able to step in and help that locality beyond the hurricane, beyond the tropical storm. We were able to support them through the line of duty process. Well, that doesn't sound like that has anything to do with emergency management, but it really does, because, we're able to bring together partners to help support the family, to help support the fire family that was impacted, and, to help each other. So, there's a lot of times that it seems like responses going on doesn't have, anything to do with emergency management, but it really does, because, we can help collaborate and coordinate. We're almost, kind of age myself, we're almost like Julie on the Love Boat. So, we know who all has what resources and who can do what and how things can happen, and we can support each other.
That's a great story, actually. Any other stories like that around any hurricanes or tornadoes, floods that you'd like to share?
I know in my current position in New Hanover, the position was brought about because of Hurricane Florence. So, that was very impactful down here. Just looking at any old map, you can see that there's basically 4 ways in and 4 ways out of New Hanover County, and all of them were flooded. Everything that could have gone wrong during that incident did. We lost a major generator for our emergency operations center and for our 911 center. There was damage to one of the emergency shelters to the roof. So we had to move people from one shelter to another. So, not being here to experience that, but hearing the stories and hearing how the community came together, more than just emergency management, more than just the public safety partners, but how everybody supported each other and, kind of collaborated to get through those incidents within the incident, so to speak, made it less scary. It was still pretty stressful in 2019 when Dorian came through, especially for the county staff here, because, everybody in the county has a disaster job. It's not just limited to the public safety partners. So a lot of people were super stressed, totally, absolutely, well, rightfully so. But we had done so much training over the previous 12 months before Dorian came that people were somewhat more comfortable with their role. They were able to more quickly step up and say, hey, we did this during Florence. Would that same thing apply here in Dorian? Just a lot of problem solving, for people that think, well, I don't have anything to do with public safety or emergency management. I just work in tax. Well, yeah, but look at what you just solved, just using your life experience and things like that. So it's really, I think it's really neat to see how people find it, deep within themselves. Everybody has the ability to do this. There's not a victim, right? People are able to take care of themselves if you show them, if you remind them that, hey, you really do have this in you.
That's great information. And that's also a great attitude. And really take care of yourselves first. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
Again, just, you have it within you to do all of this stuff, right? You know what your family needs. As a citizen, understand better than what I, as a deputy coordinator of emergency management, will ever understand what your family needs. I can give you generalities, but you know what you need best and you need most. Don't wait for the emergency to happen. And, it doesn't have to just be a tornado or a hurricane. It could be a house fire. It could be a traffic accident. It could be any, armadillos to zombies, pretty much anything. Sit and talk to your family and think through, well, what would you do if, right? If you've planned, gone through the steps of planning for a Thanksgiving dinner, or you've ever moved a child to college, or, all of the planning that goes into those big life events. Well, the same thing applies to being prepared for emergencies. try to sit and think through what you need and be reasonable and, understand at the end of the day, you have to be able to take care of yourself because you know what you need better than anybody else on the face of this planet.
And know your evacuation routes.
Yes, and know multiple evacuation routes. We call that 5 p.m. traffic here in the Wilmington area. So take advantage of the next traffic accident that's blocking up the road. Find another way to get around because, that's going to apply. If you ever have to evacuate, the way that you're planning on going out may be blocked. So now you have to change. And you don't want to be panicked in the middle of an emergency. Just
From personal experience, that I also say plan early and leave earlier than you think you need to.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, hey, Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been great.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.